Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Rock and Roll Brunch Podcast, episode number 22. Today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Brian Shamie. All that, plus so much more, all in today's show. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, welcome to the Rock and Roll Brunch Podcast. My name, your host, is Mr. Josh Marcanti. With me, as always, are my two wonderful co-hosts, but the more important person that I'd like to introduce here today is our very special guest, Mr. Brian Shamie. Brian, how are you today, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Happy to have you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us.
Yay. We've been talking about this for a while. I'm glad we're making it work.
We've been literally talking about this. I first brought this up to Brian when we were doing music. I always get the name wrong. Mxpx 56. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. In Mount Prospect, brought it up over the summer. I was like, hey, you should come on our show. So finally reached out, and he was happy to join us. So happy to have you here, boys. Let's give him a round of
happy to be here, chatting with you guys. And nice to meet you, nerds.
Same.
We managed to do it. With me also is Mr. Chris Marcanti. Chris, welcome.
Hi.
Also, last but not least, Mr. Dane Train Urbach. Dane, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing okay.
All right.
He's hanging on.
Never good.
Acceptable.
He's hanging on by a thread.
I'm having tech issues.
The video. No, I
that
can't
will
wait.
That will be very evident on the video.
I was gonna say, because you're saying that, but your face wasn't moving.
He will robot out, but we'll survive.
Sorry.
I think it's all those dang kids using up all them internets, huh?
Yeah,
Probably.
for sure.
Man.
All the Roblox.
Yes.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. Brian, we always like to start off the show by talking about either something you've been listening to lately, or any coffee or anything you might be interested in drinking in right now. But since it's not 5 o'clock in the morning,
I am actually drinking coffees.
Oh. What do you jam for coffee?
Okay,
what do you do?
So this is just from Mariano's.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's just the Kona Hawaiian blend. It was on sale.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Wait, so is that pre-made or is
no,
that...
No. I mean, I made a pot of coffee this morning, and this is what was left, and I iced it down because I figured, why not pretend it's brunch?
Very nice.
Absolutely.
Hey, that's
Josh already spoiled the illusion, so
yeah.
I'm not gonna listen. I'm not gonna pretend that it's 5 o'clock in the morning. They're gonna
know.
They're gonna be like these guys are all jazzed up. They've had a full day.
Yeah, they're too
Pretty
awake. It's all good.
yeah, pretty awake.
Real quick, Kona. That's a brand, Kona?
No, it's actually Cameron's coffee, but it's their like Kona blend.
Oh, Cameron's.
Yeah,
I'm with you. Cameron's. Okay,
Isn't Kona
Cameron's.
usually like
I
Hawaiian?
fancy myself a coffee snob, but I'm not a. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's the best.
I recently upgraded.
There you go,
dude.
Cheap
Well,
coffee.
and the reason I ask is I recently upgraded to a coffee maker, just a regular coffee maker. I've had a Keurig for forever, and so I'm at Mariano's looking at the different coffees that are available, and each week I go in and I try a different one. I've not bought the same bag. I've not bought the same bag for the past month. I've not bought the same bag twice.
I should do that. Because I mean,
get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, there's
too
so
much
many
out there.
options.
Coffee cups.
Wait, so Mariano, I think we shop at the same Mariano's. I know we shop at the same Target.
We definitely shop at the same Target.
We've run into each other a couple times.
I'll be like, "What's up, Brian?" Many times.
My wife's like, "Oh, is that the Josh that we met at the store?" Yeah, that's that Josh.
Yeah, that's him again. That's him again.
No, your wife is like, Jesus, this guy's in every store that we go into. Something is going on.
I'm stalking him. What have you been listening to lately? Anything you're really excited about that you want to bring up?
I will. I'll talk about my music feature this week. Actually, two of them. Jackson Adams. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. They're like kind of indie alternative, like sort of on the poppier side of indie alternative, and they have a new release out today, or sweet. I guess a couple days ago. I'm not sure when this is running, but. Yeah, it's really good stuff. Like it's a band that
Jackson Adams.
Jax and Adams, yeah.
Jax and
Adams.
Yeah, they're it's like introspective, but it's very. I was talking to Davin and Dan a couple days ago for this feature, and like they like to keep things really like upbeat and uplifting. So it's like thinking about like this song in particular is thinking about like how you imagine your life is going to go, and then like realizing 10 years later that you're nowhere near what you have mapped out. But it's not like angsty. It's more like
awesome
learning to accept that. And I think that's really, it's a really cool vibe. It's a band I'm really excited about. I've been excited about for a little while, but we haven't had a chance to kind of work it out until just now. So yeah, you should check them out.
I definitely will.
Awesome. For sure.
Dane, who you been listening to lately? Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys are into Pedro the Lion. I don't think we've ever like talked about it, but he dropped a new record last week. Yeah, it was a surprise. And I needed that record right the moment that like it came out. I got really into the last album that Pedro the Lion released. I think it was called Phoenix, and this one's called Havasu. And it's super good. I like Pedro the Lion's older stuff, but I feel like these newer songs just sort of they just click with where I am right now in my life, and it's like good music to put on in my classroom and stuff like that. So, yeah,
awesome.
That's cool. Yeah,
add it. Another one added.
Add it to the list.
Chris, what about you?
I always called them Pedro La Línea. I don't know why. I feel like that came from something like another band. Doesn't matter.
Aren't you embarrassed?
I'm so embarrassed.
Aren't you embarrassed?
I'm so embarrassed. I'm getting uncomfortable. One of the two things I've been jamming lately. One is a good chunk of those Dan Adriano songs, like he's got a new record coming out, and half the record I'd say is released at this point. They're all just so good. They're just catching me at the right time. The new Under Oath got released. That's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and a lot of people have been talking about that.
Yeah, for sure. It's a mean, heavy, angry record, and like at the vacuum of Every Time I Die, that they're a good spot to be. And then Mxpx, I don't know why, I've just been listening to their
which album?
Put out a record. The MX, I think it's self-titled, that came out in 2020.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's just a good time. It's just a really, really good time. But that's what I've been jamming. Josh, what about you? What's on your
all the same Under Oath, Dan Andriano. So yeah, let's go ahead and well, also artists from some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. So that being said, Brian, can you? I know everything about you. You're not telling me, but tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. What do you do? Where do you come from? What's your background? Give us a little bit of Brian.
Okay, so I am currently a music writer at the Daily Herald newspaper out here in the Chicago suburbs. I have been here for this is going to be my 24th year.
Dang.
So I started right out of college. But about 5 or 6 years ago, I started. I was a copy editor and page designer, and that was my passion. But about 5 or 6 years ago, I started a music column, and it just sort of grew. We had a reporter who left, and my editor was like, "Oh yeah, we need someone to write this music column." And I was like, well, I don't know. And she's like, you're the one who's always talking about music. You're the one who's always talking about shows we should be covering for the entertainment section. So like, you should really do this. And I was like, hell no, I haven't written in like 19 years or 18 years, you know, like, and she wore me down, and I started writing this column, but I kept sneaking in like local acts, local bands that I knew, and things that I was excited about that I'm sure most people did not know about. And the response was awesome. So it just, like I had bands reach out to me saying that like they had never been in the paper before, they had never gotten any coverage before, and I was like, okay, this is a niche that really needs to be explored a little bit. So I started pushing even more local stuff into my column.
The audio listeners can't see me and Chris shaking our heads,
just
nodding yes so hard it hurts.
Yeah. You see, you guys know, but But yeah, and it just kind of grew into like my thing. About 4 years ago, I'm thinking, we gave it a name. We called it Soundcheck. That was the column in the Daily Herald's timeout section, and I started doing more features, and it just it grew. You know, a lot of people were just really interested in that. So
what's funny is like anybody that I'm friends with that's a musician in and around the area,
without a doubt,
mutual friend Brian Shamie. I am not. That is not an exaggeration. Like literally everybody that I know is like, oh, it's Brian. Brian shows up.
We know
Brian shows up. It's Brian.
More than one time, I've been like, I've looked at a band or something, and I'm like, oh, let's just check out their Facebook page, and it says, your mutual friend is Brian Shamie. I'm like, this guy's in everything. He knows all.
Literally,
he knows all the bands before anybody else does. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, what's funny about that is like there are a lot of people I know on social media that I have not met in real life yet.
Yeah,
sure. I'm getting around to it.
Yeah.
Is it just you then covering music?
Yes.
At the Herald?
Yeah. I mean, we every once in a while, something will go to like a beat reporter if it's something that's like local in their area, or there's something that they want to cover. Like we're more than happy to have other people jump in for the timeout section and stuff. But for the most part, it's just sort of my thing. So, and it's
awesome.
It's funny because like I just kept taking over more and more and more. And it was like,
that's how it goes.
So you know, like now, like most weeks, I have a feature, maybe two. I've got my column, and the whole music section is like my byline.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a guy who teaches, like I run the student newspaper at the high school that I teach at.
Oh,
and,
cool.
And I teach journalism classes, so just sort of hearing you talk a little bit about like your role and stuff is like, oh man, I can't wait to tell my students about this and you know, what's it like to be, you know, working at a real newspaper. And hey, sometimes you know, like the best things happen by accident because another writer left, or you know, there's a void.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing has just been like a series of like weird coincidences and happy accidents. You know, like I did not intend for if you told me in 2014 that I'd be a music writer, I was just like, hell no, I like music, but you know,
that's awesome.
I haven't written anything but a headline in like 18 years.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, no, it worked out.
See kids.
Yeah,
Live your
Dan,
dreams.
we should talk sometime.
Dreams can come
true. If you want some pointers or anything for the kids, you know.
We can definitely be in touch after this for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh wow, magic's happening.
I know,
see, Brian, you literally are. You gotta get them. You get them while they're young, and then you know what I mean.
Everyone wants a piece.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
that's not what he meant.
As long as they're
Moving
not like,
on.
wait, what's a newspaper?
Exactly.
That is awesome. Yeah, that'd be really cool to like see you guys connect and do
for sure. Yeah,
there.
Yeah,
that'd be
great.
really awesome. Awesome. Well, you know, I think what I wanted to do for the show today is kind of frame everything around. Brian, you put on an article was it the end of it was like December?
Oh yeah, it was the very end of the year. It was my end of the year roundup.
Yep. So listeners, go to chicagosoundcheck.com. That's where we're going to grab our article from today, and it's discoveries from 2022.
Nope.
2021.
This is direct to Bandcamp. We can't even edit that out.
This is just me. Discoveries from 2021, some of our favorite releases, and the new, to us, artists behind them. So, Brian, Chicago Soundcheck is go ahead. No, please.
You were heading.
No. Tell me about Chicago Soundcheck. Okay. the site itself.
Yeah. Okay. So the site. So Chicago Soundcheck. What that is it's all the articles that I've written for the newspaper, all kind of in one place. In addition to just a bunch of exclusive features, we have playlists on there. We have photo galleries in from the pre-COVID area, but hopefully we'll be getting back into that sometime soon. And
you're doing more like Zoom interviews with people, right? Like,
I started doing that more this year. Because of the pandemic, like everything kind of had to go over. It was just on interviews were all on the phone or they were like video interviews, but I never really recorded the videos. And this year I felt like I think the next progression is to try to do more of that. And So I started recording the Zoom calls and then cutting little clips out and throwing them up on Instagram as reels, and the response to that has been pretty cool. So
I love him.
I
Personally, I
told
absolutely
you, yeah.
love him. I really do love the snippets of content. I just it's something that like I don't know. It's just a great way to digest information and keep doing them. I don't know. That's
no, thank you
I'll
very
go.
much. I mean,
I'll go.
It's been nice having you, buddy.
Feedback's great.
It's been really nice having you. You're dead to me now.
Cool.
But, yeah.
Cool. You know what's and I just want to steal it for a second because I think what's really really interesting about like some of the future aspects of music is I think it's a volume game. I've said it a bunch of times. I think bands have to put out a lot of music because it's really hard to cut through the fray. But I also think it's a local game. Like I really think that it has to do with being hyper local, and in a city like Chicago is the perfect place for it to exist as a hyper local. Like there's so much kind of action and things that are happening, places to play, people to talk to, and I don't know what your perspective is on that. Obviously you run a local column in Chicago and stuff like that, but do you feel that at all? Do you like a perfect example is like Jackson Adams? Like I'm not a band I've heard of, right? But people from Chicago would want to go to a show like that. They don't, people are traveling less for anything, let alone shows. And so what is it for being around Chicago? My opinion is that it's a localized thing, but that can really help bands and artists and stuff like that. Do you feel that? Is that the feedback that you sense at all, that like it's harder to be a national act?
Yeah, well, I don't know so much that it's harder to be a national act because I mean there's a whole lot of hype. When you're a national act, people know who you are, and you've got 1 million followers and you have people who know when you're coming to town. And my big push was to let people know, like, there are these people, like my elevator pitch is like, everybody knows when the Foo Fighters are coming to town, so they don't really need any publicity. They don't need anybody writing about them. But people like Jackson Adams, people, like the throwbacks, like people might not know who
Don't
these
do
up
that.
and
Don't do that.
You son of a
don't.
I'm blushing.
More people need to know like who these up and coming acts are and where they're playing and find out like they're playing in the bar right down the street, and you should go check them out and like you could talk to them afterward and just get to know them. And I think that's the most important thing because I think right now, and I might be wrong about this, but I feel like when people follow artists, when people follow celebrities on social media and stuff, they want to know them. Like they want to feel like they know who they are. It's not just like they want to watch, some, glamour bomb.
I know what you mean. Like,
from like Hollywood.
I know what you mean. It's like, it's like they want to feel that connection. With the person
and they want to know
on a personal level.
Oh, I want to talk to this person about, their favorite music or their favorite movie, or we'll watch them make a recipe or something. And I just, I know that's dumb, but like that's what
totally
people
true.
do,
Yeah.
And so I feel like if music fans can get to know these up and coming acts just a little bit better, like find out where they're coming from, find out what the songs mean and what they sound like, and I don't know. That's just, I feel like that's my goal.
Yeah.
Hey, hold on. Can I ask a question? Does it have to just be the Marcanti show? Hey, Brian, how do you find the bands
Chris,
that you
disconnect
cover?
You can. He
cut his internet. Sorry, go ahead, Dave. Sorry, go ahead.
How do you find the bands that you cover?
That's a million ways. When I first started, I started following some bands on Facebook, and that would lead me to other bands. I'd see like who they were playing with, and I'd say, okay, who are these other acts? And I'd look them up, and then I started making connections with like some of the band members. That's why I know so many of the people, because I'm like, oh, who's this band? Yeah, I don't know them. So I started friending a bunch of them. But then as people started to figure out what we were trying to do, they started reaching out to us too. We do get some emails from publicists. I do get people messaging me on all our social media platforms and stuff, and they're like, hey, you might not know us, but we're putting out some new music in a month. Do you want to chat with us? And if it fits the schedule for the paper and stuff, then that's how I get to know people. So
do you
a lot of the time it's like friends of friends and word of mouth. So
do you, as like a music fan, somebody reaches out to you and they say, hey, we have a thing coming out, we have a record coming out, can we do, what is your threshold? Do you go like, I don't like them, therefore I'm not going to cover them? Do you say like, oh, there's maybe I can see where the interest is, and maybe if they're I don't necessarily like them, I think that maybe they deserve to be covered.
Oh yeah.
How does that kind of take priority for you? How do you sort that? How do you triage that?
Okay, so I'm gonna preface this by saying, like, I'm not a music critic. I don't pretend to be.
Sure.
Like,
You're a taste. You're a taste.
You're in good company.
You're a taste maker.
There we go. But I don't know enough about music. I mean, I'm approaching it from the aspect, or from like the perspective of a fan. Like just.
Sure.
So that being said, if somebody sends me something new, I will listen to it, and I can usually find something to like about it, even if it's not like a genre that I particularly am a fan of or am familiar with. What it comes down to a lot is just scheduling. If somebody's releasing something and I don't already have something lined up for that week or that weekend or whatever,
sure.
then or there's extra time to do an extra interview or an extra story or something, then I'll tackle it, because I feel like everybody who sends me something, it's worth hearing, it's worth sharing, and I'm gonna learn something from.
That's awesome.
From everybody I talk to. So, and I know that's a very diplomatic response, but like that's actually how I really kind of approach it.
It's less diplomatic and more authentic, which I think is a hard.
Dane
thing
has
to
a thought.
find.
Chris, I'm gonna interrupt you. Dane's got a thought.
Do it. He looks so pensive.
Yeah,
I know. He's got a big old fart just cocked in the chamber.
No, I was just gonna say, like,
humor.
The way I'm on the other side pitching bands to publications all the time, and man, like, just having somebody who's like open-minded and willing to say yes, it's just such an important thing for bands. Like this, it's like they might find 10, 15, 20, 40, 100 new fans just because of what you write. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I think that's the way music publishers should do things. Like, I think they should say yes and find the thing that makes that music special. I don't know. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hope so. Like, even if just 5 new people listen to some act that I'm sharing, like, that's 5 new people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's. I mean, from a band perspective, as a guy who's like desperately searching for anybody to please listen to your stuff, 5 people, 5 new fans as a band is like you'll go to bed that night on cloud fucking 9 of being like, I got Brian to write something, and like now I got these like 5 new listeners, like that, like, especially into I think today's music economy of numbers, like Chris says, where there's constantly stuff being put out and constant demand for attention, let alone movies and video games and everything else that demands your attention. If you can get 5-10 people to go like, hey, I'm a fan of these guys. Yeah. I think just that work that you bring, Brian, is you might not even understand like what that means to. I'm sure other bands tell you this, but yeah.
But you can see it in the comment sections and stuff like that too. Of your Instagram, whatever, like even articles or the way that bands share the stuff that you do. People, it's like, I mean, even for us, like even the small stuff, I say small, huge stuff that you've done for us. Like, I get like somebody was like, my neighbor was like, saw you in the paper.
It's a big deal.
Yeah,
it's a big deal, man, for sure.
But that's why I think it's so interesting to go like hyper local in Chicago, right? Because like if you're I'm in a band and I play down the street and my neighbor's like, saw you in the paper, didn't know you were in a band. That's +1 to the show, right? Like that's so different than going like whatever, a write-up happened in a national publication or whatever. Like that's great, that's awesome. But if I'm a local act and I can't tour, I can't do all this stuff, like we talk about all the time what it means to be a small band and how you generate anything as a small band right now, like being so centralized in an area where somebody can literally go like, saw your write-up in the blah blah, you guys look good, is so meaningful. It's so much more meaningful, I think, and you see it in, like I said, the acts that share your stuff are like jacked up, that like they're in the paper and all that.
Yeah, and I love that too. I mean, don't it's been cool because it's opened some doors, and I have been able to talk to some national acts and stuff. And don't get me wrong, like being able to talk to like Zoe Deschanel and like Kevin Griffin and stuff is like, oh my god, yes. But it's a lot more satisfying to like be able to sit down, you know, for example, like with Jackson Adams and Alex Santilli, another guy I talked to, wrote about this week too, and like to really kind of dig into their backstory and be able to share that, and then be like, okay, this is what you guys might like about the music, so you should check it out. And then kind of to go back to what Dane was asking too, you know, time and space there are limitations, obviously, and so I try to circumvent that by doing the weekly Fresh Tracks posts too. So if people send me stuff and I know that I'm not going to be able to get to it, I'm not going to be able to do a feature or something, I post these. It's just a list, and it's going to be embedded videos. It's going to be embedded. Well, right now I'm doing Spotify, but you know, who knows? Maybe we'll move into other territories soon. But but yeah, it's just kind of a way to say like, okay, I couldn't write about this, but you need to check out all this really cool stuff that came out in the last, you know, week or two.
Like you're like, I can't do the deep dive, I can't do the feature, but I can give it some attention. I can give it, you know, to the audience of whatever.
And hopefully somebody's noticing that, and you know, maybe they find something that they like. We also have kind of a running playlist. I started a couple years ago. I was doing like a monthly one. It just got too big. You know, it started to get like, you know, it's like 100 songs, and it's like, well, people aren't going to listen to that. So last year I started doing kind of a running list. So every week or two, I'll add like 10 or 15 new songs to it, and like some of the older stuff will just drop off. So I'm trying to kind of keep it to like an hour and a half. I have not put together the 2022 one yet, but that's going to be probably dropping in a couple days. And then that'll be some really, like, some of my favorite stuff that's come out in the last month. And then every week I'll just update it.
All right, Brian, there'll be a section at the end to plug your shit, okay?
He's right off the top, right in the middle.
Enough.
But plugging my shit is plugging your shit.
Yeah, that's right. He's right.
Circle of love, guys.
Do you think there are more bands now than, like, have you felt a growth in artistry at all, or do you think there's a decline, or it's stagnant? Like, what is your sense of the amount of people asking you for features and for stuff like that? Like, are there more bands now, less bands now, or artists, I should say, in general, because you don't just cover, like...
Yeah, you know,
Chris, can I continue to the way you beat her off? You're the font representation of your sense is like 100, 50, 20, 1.
Yeah, that's how I ask questions.
All right. Sorry, re-ask your question in a more concise way. Sorry to interrupt you, Chris.
Do you think there's more bands now or less bands now? What's your, or maybe it's the same, I don't know, your sense of like whether or not people are still interested in writing music?
Oh yeah, and I mean, I don't think that that's going to be on the decline anytime soon. Like people need the creative outlet. You know, people have a lot to say and a lot to kind of get out there, and music is a great way to do it, and it's a great way to share with so many other people. You know, find people who relate to it. So yeah, like if you're asking if like bands are going away, I mean, I know that there are some acts who kind of went on hiatus during the pandemic, but for everyone that kind of fell off my radar, like 5 more popped up. So
sure. Yeah.
Well, and then that's my question too. Like, you know, I think we're all kind of fighting that, like, you know, 30s, 40s thing where it's like I got the music I like and I'm done. I don't need to continue searching out new music. But there's still that thing where there's so much coming out always.
Oh yeah.
That, like, you know, you and I, and we'll talk a little bit later about Ike Riley, but like, here's a guy who's been at it for, you know, at 20 years, 30 years, and like, I'm just discovering him now. How do you keep up? How do you, besides submissions, how do you like fight that thing and seek out and, you know, like,
lots of to-do lists and little scraps of paper
nice,
all over
awesome.
the place, but
that's Chris's jam.
yeah. I mean, I keep trying to like digitize it, but like I'm so old school. That,
I'm sure if we could pan around at that desk, it's
my lists, yeah. But
I got a list too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
we're all here, man.
Yeah, it's hard, but I have calendars, and when I stumble across something on like Instagram, like someone's putting out some new music in a week, then I go right to the list and start jotting stuff down. Okay, nice. I gotta keep track of this. Gotta keep track of this. That's
amazing.
Yeah, and it's on Twitter and through email and stuff. It's actually easier through email because I can categorize things and then just like click on the category and be like, oh yeah, here are all these new songs that are coming out in a week or two. But I still use social media for it.
For discovery, like
yeah.
I mean, it's just it bums me out, to be honest. And I don't know, Dane, I always feel like you're on the more bleeding edge of stuff with music discovery, but it bums me out when it's like I feel like I'm in tune, and then like shit comes out that I'm like, why have I not known about this?
But I feel that way too. Like I feel like there are bands that I like a lot that like will put out an album like, oh shit, how did I miss that one? Did I talk about Failure with you guys last time we were on? There's this band called
Just Your Life.
Oh well, but there's this band from the 90s called Failure that have like just keep churning out music, and they released an album this year and I missed it, and I just, in addition to Pedro the Lion, that one's been going that was like my COVID soundtrack, like when I had COVID, and it just got me through feeling better. And to be honest, like I feel like I like to think that I'm on top of things too, but I miss stuff all the time. So like I always get really jealous when there's somebody whose job it is to keep up with it, and like and who does such a good job at it. It's like shit, I wish I had that job. That'd be so awesome. I don't know.
Well, you need to work at a newspaper for 24 years.
I know.
Are you hiring?
Just quietly take stuff from other people.
Yeah, there we go. I miss a lot, and I always feel bad about it when I find out about something like 2 weeks after the fact. So like I'll throw it in Fresh Tracks, or I'll reach out to somebody and be like, okay, sorry I missed this release, or your email got buried. Can we do something?
Apologize.
Well, I'm a people
genuinely
pleaser.
Nice guy. Yeah, you're just a genuinely a nice guy.
I'm pathologically people pleasing, but
dude, hence why you're here right now.
By the way, thanks for doing the podcast.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for the. No, I'm kidding.
I don't have a lot of money to give you.
No,
thank you.
Yeah. No, I just like I said, I if I miss stuff or miss stuff from like friends of mine or something, like I feel bad about it, and I'll just like try to make a point of doing something the next time around, if I can. But again, Fresh Tracks and those like playlists are a really good way for me to kind of say like, yeah, I kind of missed this, but here you go. Here's something you should have heard. But it's funny because like you guys are talking about these artists like releasing this new music and everything, and I'm just like, I remember that name. I remember hearing. I remember Pedro the Lion, but
it's on a piece of paper.
It's so funny because like I don't like most of what I listen to now is just local stuff, just because there is so much good stuff coming out of the Chicago scene.
That's interesting.
I don't.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I just don't. Every once in a while, like something will pop up on like Spotify, like a suggestion or something, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's really good. But for the most part, I just keep going back to my favorites from the local scene. So.
It's interesting to think about it that way too, like how, we all have the national acts that we follow, that we've been following, but like each city has local scenes that you could deep dive in and never leave that, and only ever listen to those artists, and be fine, and you would get all the music you ever need, and like that's kind of interesting to think about how you can be like I'm really just Chicago music. And like national, but and how each city could do that. You could have Brian Shamie's in every city. Am I saying Shamie right? By the way?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, that's right.
Thank God.
After all this time, we've known
40
each other,
minutes in. What is wrong with you?
And like 4 or 5 years in.
Oh my God.
Oh God.
By the way.
But anyway, how there could be Brian Shamie's literally every major city in the U.S. that focus on it, and stuff guys will never hear about. We'll just never. Despite how hard you search, it just will never, unless you're completely tuned in, unless you're paid to be tuned in, you'll miss it.
Yeah, and I think that like that's a really interesting point, and that is something that I mean, if you guys have any ideas, like I would love to hear it. But
no,
it's just like I would like to grow things a little bit more, because it's nice like looking at the numbers and being like, okay, a couple hundred people read that story or something, but I want more. I feel like the more people know about what's going on and what we're trying to do, like the more publicity we could get for these acts. And I don't know.
Yeah, keep it up. I mean, I only see it going in one direction, which is more.
And I feel like when one band gets coverage, they're gonna share it, and two other bands that follow them are gonna be like, oh, hey, maybe we should reach out to them too, and that just sort of like becomes the butterfly effect, right? Like maybe that's not the right way of putting it, but it just sort of is just gonna expand.
I saw that movie
with what's his name, the dude from that '70s show. Yep.
Yeah.
But but I feel like that's kind of the cool thing of what you do. It's just the long game. And it's probably way less appreciated because it's easy to read an article about the Foo Fighters coming to town, and it's a lot harder to, spend your cup of coffee reading about two new bands that are coming into the area to play a show, or two Chicago bands that, like no one's giving a shit about but probably should. I feel like the work you're doing might be less appreciated, but it leads to bigger things, and it kind of keeps the scene burning. So
yeah, and that's Dane. That's that last little point right there keeps the scene burning. Brian, and that might be the thing you might not appreciate as well, is like in this age we live in of number one COVID and everyone being stuck inside, but digital where there's so much content, there's so much music. How like musicians, artists, bands pointing to a few select people to like be the tastemakers, be the guys that are highlighting stuff. It really does keep a scene going. And you might not appreciate that, but
I'm glad you guys are saying that. But because like being on the other side of it, like I don't know. Like, I mean, people will tell me, or, someone will mention like, oh yeah, I saw this on Chicago Soundcheck, or a friend of mine was on it and we really like what you did. Can you do something about our band too? But yeah, like being on this side of it, like, I don't know what the effects are, I don't know how much it's helping or if it's helping,
I know Chris experiences this too, but like, meeting people who know you, it's just like all of a sudden there's a bridge, all of a sudden there's a connection, all of a sudden we're in the same thing. All of a sudden we're in the same boat.
Yeah, for sure. No.
Enough complimenting you. I'm done with that.
Well,
I would go ahead. No,
I was just gonna say I just want to take a minute to just thank, because it's not like right now it's just me because it's COVID and there aren't, shows are different now, but before COVID hit, like there was a team, this Soundcheck started because I had this conversation at a show with a photographer who loved the local scene, Neil Zalesnik, and he was one of the, I guess, like one of the driving forces, just like that conversation, and then it just sort of blossomed into other conversations I'd had with other people. And like the idea, like the seed was planted and like it started to grow like on my side, but then I brought Neil in, and then he brought his friend, who's another photographer, Dennis Chang, in, and they're just like, those guys are just amazing. Like they've been a great support network. They were going out, they were shooting shows like every weekend. They taught me how to shoot shows. So, so we've been doing that together. In 2019, like we went to like all these huge music festivals, like we did some coverage at Lala and North Coast, and we were doing it together, and like that was amazing. That was a blast. But then COVID hit and we couldn't go to shows together, and then but I wanted to shout out Neil and Dennis too, because
hey, Neil and Dennis, if you're watching.
Yeah.
Hey guys, wait, we need a photographer. The Throwbacks need a photographer. What's up?
Hey.
What's up?
That's
I'll
true.
hook you up.
Well, I do want to cover a little bit of the discoveries that you made in 2021. Again, ChicagoSoundcheck.com. You guys can go find the article there. So this portion of the show will be our reactions to some of the tracks that we got to check out that you highlighted. And Brian, definitely hop in there and give us more context, give us more flavor about some of these guys. Dane, did you get a chance to check out some of those tracks?
Yes.
Nice. Chris actually did put out he did make a playlist for us to check out, but the
cool.
playlist is on ChicagoSoundcheck.com. Maybe Chris, we can post that iTunes music, the same playlist, just to have it out there. Why not?
Yeah. Hey, yeah.
for sure.
Cool. Dane, give me some of the highlights, some of the guys that really caught your ear.
I wrote down 4 of them, but there were 2 that were more than just like, oh, this is good. Because I kind of liked the Armory. I thought they were a band that the 3 of us and Rock and Roll Brunch is right up our alley. I knew of Heat Death, although I hadn't really listened to them yet, so this was a great excuse to. And obviously we've talked about Kelly Massey and Sincere Engineer, like those are bands that I think all 3 of us in the podcast like. But okay, I gotta talk about OK Cool. Where the fuck did they come from?
Dude.
I want to sign that band to my record label. But I saw that they were on another record label, but I went and immediately followed both of them, and I was like it was exciting. Like I had one of those like, oh, this is new music for me to follow and check out. So OK Cool was really cool. They're exactly the kind of thing that my record label Jetsam Flotsam sort of is into, really twinkly, emo-y kind of stuff. Excuse me, long COVID, and I
Excuse me.
Call it out.
It's not going away yet. And yeah, they were really cool, and I also loved Geeked. Like when that song came on, it just like I don't know why, but it had all this 90s nostalgia for me. It just reminded me of a band that I would listen to on Q101 in 1997 while I was trying to play basketball with my brother in the driveway. You know what I mean? Like it was something about the song structure. It wasn't overly complicated. It was just fun and groovy, and I don't know. So those are OK Cool and Geeked are 2 bands that I'm straight up following now, just because of your playlist. Yeah.
Yeah, and OK Cool, like they have not been around for very long, but they were both part of Weekend Run Club. I don't know if you'd ever heard of them. Okay.
I have heard of them, yeah.
Yeah, and actually you were talking about a record label. It's their own label.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Take a Hike Records.
Yeah, I started
created that
following
during the
them.
pandemic. Yeah.
Super cool. So I might just reach out to them just to say hi and just to say like, look.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you got a new fan here, so.
Yeah, and we were
sure that would blow them away.
Yeah, before Omicron hit, like Chicago Soundcheck and the Herald were sponsored. We were co-presenting a show that they were part of. That was supposed to be mid-February, and no. I'm sorry, mid-January. And we ended up postponing it. I think it's going to be sometime in March. But yeah, OK Cool.
Yeah, I'll keep my eyes peeled for that.
And yeah. Cool, man. I'm glad that you found them. I'm glad you like them.
Yeah, for sure.
He's so smiling.
I know. It's exciting though. Like,
yeah.
There it is.
Sorry.
That's so exciting.
But no, it's exciting. I mean, like, but that's the thing is like we get excited about the music we review typically because it's a band that we like, or it's but there's that feeling of like discovering something that's straight up your alley that somehow has been right under your nose, but you've been missing. You know, so that's kind of what I'm pumped up about. I want to hear what Chris.
That's my feeling. Like every week, it's like,
see,
wait, who is
mean.
This?
What you're doing is so cool, and it's so
I think
genuine
that's why I do it. You know, because it's like, oh my god, I love this band, and I need to tell everybody about it. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's literally like treasure hunting. Like, oh, I found a thing. Like, how does everyone know about this thing?
Chris, I was just gonna say I want to hear what Chris liked.
And I was going to say, the thing about that sucks so hard about the internet these days is discovery is the hardest thing to do well. Like, as playlists are cool, Spotify playlists are cool, and Apple Music, like zeroing all the way in onto something that people keep like bubbling to the top is a really hard thing to accomplish well, and especially around Chicago. I think you're doing awesome. That's more smoke or blowing up your ass.
Enough.
Let's just keep it
I'm
going.
gonna show my
Let's
boss this though,
Yeah.
Get a raise.
Look how much smoke is in my ass.
Yeah. Let this be your annual review or something. I think that just makes sense. The Armory for sure, and I know, and you specifically introduced me to the Fluorescents. You were putting out something by them or something, and I was like, oh shit, this is a rad band. And I think the Armory's a couple of guys from the Fluorescents and stuff like that. So super awesome, rad. I mean, I love that. I'm a big fan of them, but that tune really caught me. The other one that really, really caught me that I was kind of surprised by is Alexander 23. It seemed I don't know if he or they or whatever, like, not a lot of music. It doesn't sound like coming out or that has been released or whatever. But that one song, like, I was just sitting working or whatever, and I'm jamming, and it comes in kind of soft, and then all of a sudden, I am such a fan of like gospel-y background vocals for whatever reason. It just like makes all the hair on my body stand up, all the hair on my body, and when those vocals jumped in, it was just the choruses are enormous. It was just such a rad track.
It definitely like that track specifically like went to a different place.
For sure.
Like it jumps in and it's like, okay, here we go, guy. Acoustic, da. And then it just jumped and it was like, oh shit, this is. I like
the other that was definitely a standout for me. Ike Riley was a standout for me. Very Bob Dylan-y. Like it was sometimes you put like John Prine, so you just put that stuff on and you're like, this is gonna cruise us all the way through the night. But the thing that really took me by surprise, and I think I'm gonna say it wrong, but Nehemiah.
Yeah.
Very Chance the Rapper, very Childish Gambino, and I have such a soft spot for like really good, like groovy hip hop. I know that's a weird thing to say, but
that's exactly what it is. Yeah,
such a soft spot for like really, whatever version of it you can call. I have no idea, but that really, really caught me off guard. And I started following all these artists and all these bands. Like I was like, I can't believe this stuff is hanging around in Chicago and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean Nehemiah, like he's based in Elgin right now, and he's like from Wheaton, and he is that guy. He is the coolest guy, like the coolest kid. Like he's so outgoing, he's so friendly, and he's so like community oriented, and like he loves where he lives, and he loves the music community, and he just wants to make it better, and that's his.
You
whole,
could tell
that's
his
whole
like
focus.
that track was. They could tell that track was very positive. Like it had a very positive vibe to it.
It's so. I just have very Chance the Rapper. Like it just. It was fantastic.
Yeah, he's awesome. And then Alexander 23 too. Like going back to that. 2021 was a weird year for me, and I think, because of COVID, like. I've talked about this to my wife and to some people. Like 2020 was like a field trip. I mean, I know COVID was terrible, but like every day kind of felt like something new was happening. We were finding out something new, and it was like scary and kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
But like 2021 hit, and it was just like, oh, so we're just kind of doing the same thing. Again. And every day was like the same thing, and so like in a weird way, like I kind of rediscovered like sad boy pop in a way, which has not been my thing for a really long time. Like I love pop punk and stuff like that, and rock music, and then I'm listening to this guy who's like sounds like he recorded his journal in his bedroom, and it was just like, things are sad. It's like, oh, but I love it. And
I'm glad you brought that up.
To it. Yeah,
I love. Oh, yeah, but I love it. But I do love it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't want to say it in front of these guys. Between you and me, Brian, that Geordie song, talk about sad boy pop. That song was. I was like, all right, I can get into that. That was a huge radio song. It was a huge radio song. Like you could tell it was. It just felt really, really big, and that got me.
I will say, I want to chime in, and I want to say, like, some of these songs just weren't up my alley at all. But when I listened to them, I was like, oh, that song's totally like a radio hit. why isn't it on the radio? You know what I mean? And like that's the thing that I think is cool about this is that some of these are just really great songs that probably would never get the time of day, even though they are like of that caliber of a hit. And they just don't have the machine behind them in the same way. So yeah, I think that's cool.
It's so crazy because I jotted that down too, Dane. Like I could hear this like I'm shopping at a department store at the mall, and like this has insane radio play. And
this is like a school dance song. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Like you'd be like, oh, of course they're playing this song. Yes. It's so overplayed. That's the caliber that it sounds like it should be. You know what I mean? And it's just.
Josh, what caught your ear on?
Chris, real quick before the Armory. They only have the one song. Was I mistaken on that?
Yes, they only have the one. Tyler and Alex had been. They're both in Fluorescence, and they had been kind of like toying with stuff before Fluorescence came around, and then during the pandemic, like Fluorescence kind of took a little bit of a break, from doing big shows and stuff, and they were like, well, why don't we put out some of that stuff that we had been working on before? So. They hopped in the studio. They released a song. They have a couple more things like in the works for this year. So it's sort of like, okay, cool. Like they were Weekend Run Club, but they're like, yeah, but the two of us are good together, so let's just do this too. Yeah. So
that's what happens in a band. You find who the like driving forces are, and then you're like, we don't need this guy. Let's just do a thing.
Yeah.
That's why Dane quit our Originals band. So
because he was the driving force of his own band.
Wait,
that's right.
I was the one that wasn't cool enough for the rest of the band. Do you remember?
That's
Do you remember how that's okay?
Oh, I was trying to be nice.
Oh, right. No, we all the cards are on the table.
We know what's happening.
Yeah, we know what happened.
Blessings to you and your family. I'm gonna highlight some of the ones that they didn't talk about because, honest to God, everything you guys highlighted was on my list as well. But I know we talked about both of these bands on this show. Kalimasi, Sincere Engineer. Sincere Engineer specifically has been one of these bands that like, whoa, for me, on my first listen, I was like, okay, all right. But like, I'm a fan and I truly love them. And like, she pops up, she's like really good at social media. So she pops up all the time, for stuff. And I'm like, every time I'm like, go you. And I see her, I see them doing,
with the Menzingers.
Yeah. Oh my God, they're playing with the Menzingers, and
they're playing with Hot Water Music.
They're on the way. They're
really?
on their way.
Yeah.
They're playing with huge. They're playing huge tours. They're going to be, and trust me, I've seen. That is a hit. That should be on every list. That is the song. But anyway,
and honestly, like that is one of those completely random stumble upon bands. I had heard them. Or heard of them, I should say. And then I was looking at Instagram, and one of our mutual friends like had shared a story. And they're like, oh, yeah, check out Sincere Engineer's new single. And I was like, oh, okay. I must. Yeah. I was told to. And I did. And I was like, oh, wow, these guys are great.
It's so funny that it ended up on your list because we discovered them in another kind of natural way. And it belonged in our, we had an end of the year discussion, and they were absolutely a part of that end of the year discussion for us for top. Anyway, I also
trail off.
There you go. Call back. Trash Fiasco. Wild. Like
I forgot to mention them too. They were cool.
I want to see them live so bad. I'm sure.
Me too.
I'm confident they destroy live. Without having seen anything, I'm like, I gotta see these guys live. I have to. That it was like chaos, but like controlled and wild. I really, really enjoyed it. It's kind of one of those, like, I think you got to be in like a mood for it, but like, yeah, really liked Trash Fiasco. And then, unless do you have anything you want to bring up about Trash Fiasco?
No, I was going to say, like, I was trying to remember which of the songs that I shared. It was Stay. Okay. Yeah. Cause the very first song on their release this year is, like you said, chaos. It's just like, it's loud and it's like frenetic guitars and like everything is just like thrown at you. And it was like, this is insane. And then Stay hit. And I was like, wait, but now they're kind of like riffing on like like a 50s like soul kind of song. Like, this is really interesting. And then if you listen to the lyrics, it's almost like it's like a love song, but it's twisted and like obsessive.
Oh. Oh, I love that.
I'm looking at their social media right now, and their guitar player plays a Gretsch. So take that for what it's worth.
I'll take all of it.
Yeah.
I'll take all of it.
I mean, which I think is cool. Like, you take a noisy band and let's give them the most rockabilly guitar possible and push it through the craziest, like, effects and amp ever, you know? That's cool.
It's so funny that you know, because, like, there's a Gretsch Steamliner on my, like, checkout cart.
There
right
is?
now. Like, yeah, for sure there is. I
Will
really
you send me a
one.
picture, please?
Yeah,
I've been
really
looking at
one.
those lately.
I really want one.
All right,
really
let's do it.
They're so cool. They're so cool.
All right, come on, let's go, man.
All right, and then to close mine out, I would probably we talked about Polarizer was another one that was
I like that song too.
Was on my list. Unique. I listened to Metronome. I'm Love from the Underground. Really enjoyed it. That is one I'm going to go like deep dive. I think that's going to need a little time for me to like simmer and like get all the nuances of what they're doing, and but really great. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, you know what? Listen to that whole album.
Yeah, I have to
straight through, because it is like that one hooked me. Polarizer's funny. The bands that I highlighted, like the 7 main ones, you know, they're not all new. A lot of the other ones were like newer bands, but these are bands that have been around for a little while. But I just never really hooked with them or clicked with them. Polarizer, I saw them play a couple years ago, but I was there to see my buddy in another band. And so, you know, I was listening to them. I was like, oh yeah, this is really good. I like them. And then totally like flew out of my head. You know,
yeah,
but
how
then
it goes.
the lead
That's
singer ended up joining The Million Reasons, which was the band I was there to see. And so we reconnected, and yeah, we had a really we talked for about an hour and a half.
Wow.
When they released this album, and Taylor's just he's a great guy. We have a lot in common. You know, you study journalism and everything, so we were talking about like how songs are like stories, and you know, talked a lot about the background of this album, and then I popped it on, and I was like, I cannot stop listening to this. You know, like it just sometimes it takes a little while for a band to click with you, but
yeah, for sure.
But it does. You know,
we talk about it all the time. How it's just like the first listen is like okay, and then it comes back and you're like, hold on, and then the third listen you're like, I don't think it's because I recognize it. I think it's because it's settling and I'm absorbing it. And, Dane, I think I charmed you for a second there. You had like a very charmed look on your
I was
face.
just vibing with that thing you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. You charmed him.
Team Josh and Dane again. We're back.
No.
We're back.
We're back. We're back.
All right.
Red shirt, Brian. Red shirt, Chris.
Let's go ahead. I've eaten up enough of your time. We hounded you with questions, and then we assaulted you with your playlist. So it's time to let you go. I know.
Do we have
so
to?
sad.
No.
Hours and hours and hours.
It's a 5-hour podcast.
We're doing a Joe Rogan thing.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
settle in.
So yeah, so now let's go back to 2020. Yeah, 2019.
Yeah.
Brian, where can people catch up with you, find out what you're up to, follow you, all that good stuff?
So see most of our stuff at chicagosoundcheck.com. We've got our features and my weekly column. You could also find me at dailyherald.com. We are on social media. We're on Facebook, Chicago Soundcheck, Instagram, Chicago Soundcheck. I'm on Twitter, that Shamie guy, but like it's not really like a Soundcheck account. But yeah, so that's pretty much it.
I saw you making art on Instagram the other day, and I was all about it. So follow you on Instagram too, right? Yeah, it was great.
Oh yeah, that's that Shamie guy on Instagram.
Yeah. Boom.
So and then I would say like if you're looking to submit music and stuff, I would say email is probably the best way to do it. Just
thank you.
bshamie@dailyherald.com.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for everything.
Oh man, thank you guys for having me on. Like this has been really fun.
come back anytime.
Sure.
You are.
Yeah.
I told you this before I told you this before we started. I think you're like the perfect guest to have on this show. So I
appreciate that.
Yeah.
You care so much more than we do.
Chris, he's getting.
I even showered for this. So.
Chris, he's getting.
What?
I know.
I didn't
Not
even
me.
do that.
I work from home.
Yeah.
I don't have to shower, but I showered.
Yeah.
Your hair
You
looks
did
great.
it.
Your hair
But
looks
you
great.
did it anyway. It's true. It's true.
Oh no, Chris, we've entered the
of a-
portion of the show where we just compliment
Feed compliments.
the shit out of somebody.
Brian, I think this is how every conversation we've ever had. You've come to shows and stuff like that. We're like
Standing in the parking lot.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
100%.
we hang out for like 20 minutes, half hour afterward.
just-
Just
Lot of
complimenting
compliments.
each other, like
Just
and,
lots of
and your
compliments.
car's cool, and
the car.
and
You smell
super
nice.
reliable.
You're the perfect height. I love that you have hair.
I can't believe it.
Wait, is it still blue on the side, by the way?
Oh yeah,
Did I
it's
see
blue.
blue?
It's blue again. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It doesn't show on camera, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
if
it's kind of like warm light. It's not really, but yeah, it's. I don't know if you can see it, but
No, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Keep it up. Real quick, Chris, where can people find what you're up to on the internet?
The throwbackchicago.com.
Nice.
Excellent.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
And
if
Dane,
you
what about
see
you?
that the throwbacks are playing anywhere, you should go see them because they're super fun.
We
That's
have
a super nice
so
plug.
sweet.
Actually, can I tell you something? Now we're going to clip that and we're going to put it at the top of everything that throwbacks is.
right at the beginning of your set, just a
Everything.
recording.
We
of
need
it.
those
That's
like
how we enter our set.
we need those like Cannes Film Festival
sure.
Oh, yeah,
quotes. You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Well, I mean that was how we met actually, because I didn't
for
know
sure.
you guys, and you were playing at Dirty Nellies,
yep.
and I was like,
Yep.
"Who is this? What is this?"
happening.
and then I tried to buy a T-shirt from you, and you didn't have my size.
Chris,
Wait a second. Do you not? Hold on a second. You have a shirt of ours.
I don't know.
Are you?
Chris,
What are we doing
we're
here?
off this fucking podcast.
What are we doing? You don't give the
What are
guy
we
Get it
even
right
doing?
now.
You don't give the
I'll
guy
get it
from
right
the
now.
Daily Herald
What
a
are
free
we doing?
shirt. Like,
Oh
what are
my
you
God.
doing?
Why do you not have a shirt?
Oh,
I'm gonna
I
send
wasn't
you 10.
asking for a free shirt. I just like you.
No, no,
guys
no.
didn't
You get
have-
free
Now
shirts.
You guys
Now
didn't
you're
have
getting
my
a box
size.
of shirts. Now
It's
you're
like,
getting a
well,
whole
One for
box
every
of
day of
shirts.
the week.
Every day that we've missed, you are getting a shirt.
Every
I'll
color
make you a
in the
design. I'll
rainbow.
design it.
Yeah.
Dane, who might also have some merch to send his way.
I probably could.
Where can people follow what you're up to, Dane?
Jetsam-flossom.bandcamp.com is a good place to start.
Cool.
Mhm.
Anything?
Yeah. So actually,
oh.
I'm super curious about that. I didn't know that you had a label.
Yes.
That's
Don't worry, I just started following Chicago Soundcheck on Instagram, so you will know where to find me.
so we'll start chatting, huh?
Yes, we sure can, man.
Awesome, man. It was really good meeting you.
Yeah,
I
same.
love it. For me, it's everything here. Rock and
No
roll
one-
brunch. No one. If you're here, you're here. If you're here, you're here. I'm not gonna.
Just-
we
we get
go.
it,
We're
guys.
not gonna do
Jesus
it.
Christ.
Brian, thank you so much for joining us. One more
Thank
time.
you.
Oh, thank you guys for
Sincerely.
having me.
This has been a pleasure.
This has been a lot of fun.
When we end our shows, we like to do a little thing. You know, we used to get together at restaurants.
Still
and
do,
at the-
sometimes.
Well, we do.
Sometimes.
COVID,
Sometimes.
come on, baby. But we would always ask for the check from the waitress. So we have a little sign off, say check, please. We'd be honored if you gave us a little check, please.
Check, please.
Hey.
Check, please.
Beautiful.
It's my ringtone now.
Garçon.
Yep.